Welcome to the Know Your Legacy podcast. I'm your host, V, and today's guest is Amber Lee Lyons. Amber is the founder of the Chakra Girl Co platform, which is a spiritual platform that allows you to be your authentic self while also practicing spirituality in a modern way. She's also the host of the Chakra Girl Radio podcast, hosted by Amber, which covers a lot of topics around spirituality, where she talks about her journey and brings on other guests as well. She hosts retreat all around the world and allows individuals, men and women, to step into their greatness. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No, most definitely. I think I saw some of your work on Instagram, and as I was scrolling through, I could see like the progression of your journey as well. And I thought that's interesting that you've come this far, because I know you weren't always doing what you're doing now, and you were in sort of the jewelry business before, and that was kind of what your post.
Well, that was a deep dive that you went on.
I'm not
I started as a jewelry business, but it was still in the chakra realm. So it was crystals and gemstones to balance your chakras.
Yeah, exactly. But just before we go into that, just to lay the foundations a little bit for people who are maybe coming to this topic for the first time, it's like, what is a chakra, and like, do we all have them?
We all have them. So the chakras are the 7 key energy centers in our body, and everyone, at this point in time, I'm sure can agree that everything is energy. It's scientific, guys. So your chakras are transmitters and they are receptors. So they transmit energy and they receive energy. So whatever vibration you are emitting is the vibration that you'll receive back. So the chakras are a really great way to get very intentional, because each different chakra has different emotions, opportunities, energies attached to it. So when you get to know your chakras, you get really clear on, you can almost target what chakra, what area of your body that you need to work on.
And how did you stumble across like the topic of chakra? Because it's not something that we're taught in school. It's like you have to physically go out and find that information.
Yeah, so I was not raised in a spiritual environment by any means. And I was just like a hot mess in my 20s, like a lot of us are. It was like my early to mid 20s, and I was going out all the time, and I was like gaining weight, and I just was anxious all the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I found yoga because someone told me that I could lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll try it. And then one day I was late for yoga and the teacher wouldn't let me in. So there was only a meditation class. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll try it. And well, first I was like, will I lose weight from this? And they were like, in the long run, probably. I was like, okay, fine, I'll try it. And I was in class and I realized that I was the only psychopath that could not sit still. And for whatever reason, I felt this giant lump of energy in my throat. And I kept swallowing like every 5 seconds. And I had no idea what it was. So I asked the teacher after. I said, what the heck was that? She's like, oh, it might be an energy block in your throat chakra. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I had no idea what that meant. But I went home, Googled it, figured it out, and I read that crystals can cure chakra blocks. So I was like, okay, I'll try this. I bought an aquamarine crystal. I slept with it on my throat for 2 weeks, went back to the meditation class, and the block was gone. And I was like, this stuff works. And then I immediately started being like, okay, what else can I fix? Maybe my anxiety, maybe my, fear of failure, whatever. And I just started my body was my textbook. I started getting the crystals, reading the books, Googling, and I just learned it all on my own.
That's crazy, because the average person wouldn't find that route to healing. Usually it's like going to the doctors, taking some sort of pills, or doing some sort of surgery or something like that. You've done it in a very natural way. So how do the crystals actually work for people that haven't never used them before, or even seen what they look like? Are they stones that you naturally find in the ground, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So because they are natural stones from the ground, they emit a frequency, and different colors emit different frequencies. Different stones emit different frequencies. Different vegetables emit different frequencies. So with the crystals, you're essentially, when you have them around you or when you place them on your body, the frequency of your energy matches up to the frequency of the crystal. So, when feeling good, and then some really high strung person walks in the room and it literally changes your energy. It's the same thing with crystals. So if you have them, you know, around you and you have them on you, then it can literally change the energy and the vibration at which you're emitting.
And how did you know which one to use at the time when you were sort of deciding which one should I go for, or which one do I need to heal what I've got going on?
I Googled it.
So
You can literally Google crystals for anxiety, crystals for whatever. There's a crystal for everything. But I always say the best place to start, walk into a crystal store and see what you're drawn to, and then Google it when you get home. And it's like intuitively your vibration knows what it's attracted to. So it's the same thing with color. So if people are really attracted to the color pink, for example, it usually means that they've got something in their heart chakra or something in their femininity that they need to heal. So there's a lot of correlations between the colors as well.
That's interesting, yeah, because we wouldn't usually, you know, deep dive into colors in that way. Like we
Yeah.
just look at it as a color in a drawing book or in a picture or a movie, but you wouldn't actually understand that there's meaning behind it or why certain people are attracted to certain colors. So is there any particular colors you're attracted to?
Purple, which is the crown chakra, which is all about expansion and connection to source and connection to flow. And I've always been drawn to that color. It's a very spiritual color. It's a very, it's just like a very deep color. And I've always been drawn to it. And when I found out the meaning of it, and that's why I love amethyst, you know, the purple crystal, because and I always have, like, since I was a child. So yeah, I just think we know what we need. And you know, for me, it means that I need to keep expanding and keep expanding that connection to source.
Can you go through briefly, like some of well, I think we've got 7 chakras, right? So if you can go through it for people who don't understand it or don't know what they are.
Yeah, totally. So your root chakra is your first chakra. It is your pubic area, your legs, your feet, anything that's touching the ground while you're sitting cross-legged. And the powers that live in there. So I always say chakras have superpowers and they get clogged up. So basically the concept is that when your chakras are working properly, you are in flow, and whatever you want, you can magnetize to you. So your chakras know what to do. But because of conditioning, because of fears, because of, you know, something we saw on TV or something that happened to a friend of ours, or, you know, a negative belief or a limitation or what a bully said to us in elementary school, those chakras get blocked. They get clogged up. They get, you know, all muddy. So, so the superpowers are in there, but they just need to get unblocked. So with the root chakra, the superpowers that are in there are the feeling of being grounded, our connection to nature, our connection to forward momentum. And just that really, like, I always say you have to root down to rise up. So it's like that really strong grounded feeling that allows you to move forward. The sacral chakra is your second chakra, and it's about 2 inches below your belly button. And the superpowers that are in there are creativity, connection to our emotions. And for women, it's like our feminine power. Like that's where, for women, literally you're creating life in that area. So that one's super important. And if that gets blocked up, you know, shame, guilt, worthiness issues, that's what happens. The solar plexus is your source energy. So it's literally the solar, like it's the energy from the sun. So it's what gives you energy. It's that spark, it's that vibrance, it's that je ne sais quoi that makes people turn their heads when you walk in the room. And that gets bogged down by overwhelm. It gets bogged down by, you know, confidence issues. And, you know, when you aren't shining your brightest, that's usually because your solar plexus is blocked. The heart chakra is not only about love, it's also about balance. So balancing your feminine and masculine, balancing giving and receiving, balancing love, balancing the way you nurture yourself. So the heart chakra is super important for that. There's a major duality in the heart chakra. It has both masculine and feminine energy. So there's 2 colors associated to the heart chakra, green and pink, depending on what you're trying to manifest. So if you were trying to manifest more of like a masculine assertive energy, you would use a green crystal. If you're trying to like nurture yourself, you would use a pink crystal. Your throat chakra is the color's turquoise, and it's about your voice. It's about communication. It's about spreading your message. It's about living your purpose. And it's also your connection between your mind and your body. So your throat is super important because it allows you to be like so connected with everything that's going on. But for women and men, when we're kids, we're told to be quiet. We're told to not, voice our opinions, to play small. And so that gets really bogged down. Third eye chakra is right between your eyes. It is your intuition. It's your clarity. It's your ability to be guided from within and to even see. It's like your psychic abilities, like to be able to see and know what's going to happen next. And obviously overwhelm, too many thoughts is what's clogging that up. Crown chakra, like I said, it's like your connection to source. So everything's energy. So that means that we can literally pull things in that we want. So I always picture like the crown chakra as like a magnet that is literally pulling in ideas, opportunities, people, whatever it is. It's like calling it all in. And it's just being in the flow, like when you're in the right place at the right time with the right people, and everything is easy and nothing is forced. So that can't really be activated unless the rest of them are. That's the kicker.
So they all have to be aligned.
Yeah, for the crown chakra to be aligned.
Are we born with them all unblocked?
We are born with them all unblocked, but then you even have to think, like, the second you're born into fear. You're crying. There's things around you. You don't know what's happening. The doctor smacks you on the bum. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much going on that very quickly they start to clog up.
You also mentioned, I think in a different conversation, you were saying like trauma can be passed down as well. And so that can cause you to have like blocked chakras as well. So that you're basically born with that area already disrupted.
Yeah, totally. So your root chakra, especially the energy in your root chakra, is passed down from your ancestors. So your root chakra is about survival. So it's like your fight or flight response. So I always say, like, back in the day, survival meant, not being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, but now survival is money. So we really see if you have money fears, if you've got a bad relationship with money, then the root chakra is usually the first place to start.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So if someone was not aligned or misaligned, how would you know? Like, how would someone start to evaluate themselves and say, okay, fine, I don't have a coach, I don't have Amber like in front of me, I can't speak to her about it, but how do I know what I need to look at?
Totally. And like this is exactly what I did. I had nobody either. So I was like, I just would Google, if it's not a physical sensation that you're feeling, then that that something's blocked. If it's something that keeps happening, like if it's something like social anxiety, or we talked about money fears, maybe lack of creativity, lack of sex drive, lack of connection to other people, roller coaster emotions, whatever's going on, just Google chakra for that thing and you will literally find it. You will figure it out. Whatever it is, you'll find the information and you'll just slowly start to learn. Like, I don't even have that much information on my website about it. Like, I have some, but I just feel like everyone's meant to go on their chakra journey and just find what they're supposed to find.
Yeah, most definitely. And talking about journey, I wanted to ask you about yours, because I know you were into fashion and you were involved with some of that sort of stuff. And then you had a business before the one that you're running now. So I mean, like, growing up, what were you like as an individual? Like, were you quite spiritual anyway? Did you like stand out? I mean, like, what was it like for you?
Yeah, so I was always obsessed with witchcraft, which was interesting. I loved the idea that you could like do things like with energy, essentially. Like, I was very obsessed with it. Like, my teachers were probably a little worried. Like, I was always checking out books from the library about witches. And then as I got older, like I said, we didn't really go to church, but I was always interested like in religion and in like spirituality. But I was more interested in like picking it apart. I think I got like a kid's Bible from like one of my grandmas or something. And I like loved it, but I just wanted to ask all the questions about it. But then, you know, I found boys and drinking, and I didn't care for a lot after that. But yeah, no, it wasn't something that I started with by any means. And then, yeah, I was very outgoing. I was very, I was a mean girl in high school. Like, I wasn't very nice. And so I think I found this stuff because I had to, like, I had to like clear out all the bad energy that I had manifested.
Yeah, no, I guess the journey's different for everyone. I mean, like,
Yeah,
you learn what you eventually come to teach, I think.
totally.
Like, I think
And then going into fashion, like, you know, fashion is it can be like a very vapid and, just not a nice industry. And I just didn't feel energetically aligned there. You know, people were talking behind each other's backs, and it was just very catty. And people were just not friendly. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm over this. Like, I need to like surround myself with something positive. And, it started off, not talking about it. And I was just going on this journey on my own. And then slowly, like, some of my friends started doing it as well. And then when I brought my business online and I started the jewelry business, then I met so many people that were on the same journey and made so many friends in the online space. And it just really snowballed from there.
what's the biggest mistake you see people, like, from the stories that you've heard or people that you've worked with, what's the biggest mistakes you see people make that cause them to trip up, to stop them from opening their chakras?
I think not trusting. Like, you kind of have to trust the process. Like, if something bad happens, it's meant to show you something. It doesn't mean, oh, it's time to quit, or like it's time to stop believing in this stuff. It means, what are you not paying attention to? And I think so many times people just kind of give up, and they get into this spiral where, the second one bad thing happens, it's almost like they get into victim mode, and they want to stay in victim mode because it's comfortable. But you kind of just need to keep going and like keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about trusting what's unfolding, and like being open to the process of it making sense after the fact. Like, it doesn't have to make sense now. Like, clarity comes when you look back and reflect on everything that's happened. And
Totally.
one of the quotes, because I like reading a lot of philosophy, and one of the quotes that I share with my audience all the time is, I think it's by Seneca, and he says, "The unexamined life is not worth living." And if you can't take the time to connect the dots and to see how all the events that have happened so far brought you to today, you're never going to have any enjoyment or curiosity in life, because you're never going to be asking yourself, oh, why is this actually happening? Or how can this help me? Or how can I see this from a different perspective? You're always going to be in victim mode. So, I mean, has there been a time for you, if you can reflect back on some of the darker days that have now sort of helped you and you see as a blessing?
Yeah. So when I was 17, so I was in high school still, my mom, so she had been single for like my whole childhood, and she met a guy, and he whisked her off her feet, and she wanted to move, and they moved, and I was still in school, and I didn't want to go. Like, I didn't want to, and I don't think she wanted me to go either. So she kind of had the mindset, well, if you stay, then you're on your own. So they left. I lived on my own. Like, I got to stay in the townhouse for like a couple months until it sold. Like, I was totally by myself. I had to buy my own groceries when I was still in school, had to like get myself to work and like figure it all out. And I was very angry at my mother, and I did play the victim for like years and years after that. Even after she moved back and apologized and everything, I couldn't let it go. But I learned so much during that time of how to take care of myself and how to keep going when it's hard, and how to just like be independent. So obviously it wasn't the best situation. And I mean, I don't really wish that on anyone. It was really hard at the time. But when I look back, like, I'm so independent and so strong. So that definitely was a big part of it.
Is there anything else that you can think of, like that, in terms of whether it's personally or through some of the people that you've worked with clients wise, where you've helped them open up their chakras, or get over that dark time by them changing the way they think, or something that you advise them on? Because there's people out there listening now thinking, okay, it's all well and good for Amber because she's there now, like she's gone past all of that stuff, but how did you help those who were stuck there?
Well, this is probably going to be an annoying answer, is because there's no quick fix. It's literally doing the daily work. Like, you need to have a daily practice and be working on this stuff daily. Chakra balancing is not like riding a bike. It's like stuff that you have to work on every single day. And just because you open up another chakra, you may open up one chakra, but then 2 weeks later, there might be something else going on while everything's recalibrating. So, I mean, a very common one for my clients is the throat chakra. People that are playing small and afraid to admit that they want big things, afraid to like spread their message in a big way, afraid of people judging them. And, because of that, they play small. They don't show up on social media. They don't spread their message. They don't launch the business. They don't do the things that they know they're meant to do because they're afraid of what people are going to think. And one of my favorite ways it's called shadow work. I don't know if you've ever done any shadow work, but one of my favorite ways to look at it is think of the worst things that someone can say to you, and then start to integrate that into your brand. So for me, I was like, what if people think I'm obnoxious? What if people think I'm too loud? What if people think that I drink too much or swear too much to be spiritual? I was like, I'm just going to make that my brand. I am the drinking, swearing, spiritual person. Like, the more that you can like own those sides of yourself, the more you integrate them, and you literally are adding light to that dark vibration, and it lightens the vibration of it. So, I don't know. I think just like being real and owning it is the best advice I can give. And with that, there's a lot of throat chakra work that has to happen. So I like to look at chakra work from a mind, body, soul, and energy perspective. So for the mind, what mantras can you use? That practice that I just gave you, that's like a mental practice. For the body, literally as you're like drinking water, visualizing, that clearing out, drinking lots of water, doing neck rolls, like exercising your neck. For the soul, there's tons of throat chakra meditations out there. And then for energy, either crystals or visualizing. So visualizing is another way of elevating your vibration. So if you're afraid of putting yourself out there in a big way, but you know that you want to, start to visualize it. Picture it happening, and you don't have to worry about how it's going to happen. Just set the vibration of what you want, and then the how can figure itself out.
See, that thing that you said at the end is a key one. Like, it's something that I've experienced in the past as well. And Bob Proctor talks about it a lot in the personal development space, about just getting in alignment with the vibration of what you want. And and I actually made a video, which I'm probably going to post today or tomorrow, but either way, my 15-year-old brother actually asked me, he was like, oh, how does the law of attraction work? Because I was watching something, and he was like, what's that? And I had to break it down in simple terms for a 15-year-old. And that's when it hit me, and it was like, everything vibrates at a certain frequency, everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
And because this is at a different vibration to me, that's why this is still and I'm not, and this is stationary. But if you can get your body as a whole to vibrate at the frequency of the thing that you want, when it matches, that's when it appears in reality.
Exactly.
So break it down in the simplest way. So I mean, as you were talking as well, I was thinking of, because you mentioned like stepping into your authentic self and like the swearing, drinking, spiritual person. And I remember have you seen the movie 8 Mile? Eminem's
at
the end, he uses everything that's against him and he puts it in his own verse first, and so the other
you're right, I didn't even think about that. You're so right.
I think about that all the time, and it leaves the other guy speechless, because he's now shone a light, and he's rocking like all the things that are wrong with him. He's like, yeah, this is who I am, that I'm Eminem, like that's me.
Exactly.
So how would you, can you talk through that? So 2 things, talk through the process of like combining your light with dark, like how someone would do that. And then the second thing, if you can walk through the meditation of visualizing your higher self and then becoming that person, because I know you've talked about it in other conversations where you've said, okay, you've got to think about it and then physically become that person. So your face and your energy and your muscles change to become that person.
Yes.
I've just thrown a lot at you.
Okay, so I'll go with the light and dark first. So the first thing is admitting it. So I think it was Jay-Z that said you have to feel it or you have to, what did he say? I can't remember. It was like it rhymed, but it was something like you have to reveal it to release it. So you have to like show it and like admit it before you can let it go. And, you know, that can be hard. It can be icky. I often recommend like writing down, this is like such an icky, gross practice, but writing down everything that you're ashamed of and then forgiving yourself for it and forgiving anyone else involved in it. And there's this practice, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's this Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono.
No, I
And
haven't
it's
heard of that.
so it's basically where it's that very thing where you write down anything that you're ashamed of, angry of, whatever, and then you burn the paper. And it's interesting because when you go to do it again 6 months later, there will be so many things that were buried even deeper down underneath those other things that you totally forgot about. So if you make that a consistent practice, you are clearing stuff out. It is wild. So admitting it, forgiving it, and then integrating it. So how can you, if you have a brand or if you have an online persona or whatever, how can you make that, you know, how can you just put it out there before someone else does, you know? That's what it is, just like Eminem. So that's, you know, if you have a brand, then that's just kind of how you do it. But if you don't have a brand, yeah, it's literally just doing the work internally and maybe even just, I don't know, adding light to it, adding humor. Like, don't make it so heavy. Like, I'm not talking about being super self-deprecating, but just owning it and to a point where you don't really care what anyone thinks. And there's a meditation that I like to do as well, where you visualize your child self when this thing happened. Usually this thing started as a pattern that started when you were 3 to 5 years old. So say, for example, I'm just going to use money issues. So say, for example, you have this money issue and you can't get rid of it and you want to get rid of it. And it's this darkness that you're carrying around. Think back to when was the first time you felt this way? When was the first time that you felt you don't have enough? And it might not even be about money, but usually it's something that happens between the age of 3 to 5. And I know something that came up for me, which is like a random example, but I remember one time I had a gift certificate for Toys R Us and I wanted to buy a doll. And my dad was like, don't buy a doll because you're going to grow out of that soon. Buy something that you will have for longer. So I always had this guilt around buying something that wasn't super long term. And I carried that around forever and made myself feel bad anytime I purchased something that wasn't, you know, something that was going to last forever. And it took me realizing that pattern, doing a little meditation, going back, saying what I wanted to say to my younger self as my highest self, saying to my dad what I wanted to say to him as my highest self. And then it literally just goes away. And it's the awareness of it too. Like, the awareness of your pattern is what releases it. Like, you don't have to attach to the emotion of that pattern. You can see the pattern that's about to happen and you can choose whether or not to attach to it.
Yeah, I like that whole thing about the practice of writing it all down and then burning it, because you're literally burning away that part of you, the older self of you. You're shedding it and allowing the new version of you to surface.
Exactly. And then, the next,
no,
what did you want me to, okay.
No, go on.
The next question was about visualizing. And I like to have in the front of my journal, like the things that I want to manifest in 3 months, things that I want to manifest in a year, and things that I want to manifest in 5 years. And I just have a list of things. And some of them are trips, some of them are material things, some of them are feelings that I want to have. And I literally will just read that in the morning, like when I'm doing my journaling. And then whichever one feels the most exciting to me, I will just lay there and daydream about it. Like, there's no right or wrong way. Just daydream about it until you can feel it in your body. Like, what do you look like as this version of you that is on this yacht or whatever? You know, what are you wearing? What do you look like? What is your face? How is your face different? How's your posture different? How's your energy different? How are you talking to people? What are you doing with your hands? You know, like what? And when you do that, feel it in your body. Be like, okay, my face is changing. My posture is changing. My vibration is changing. And then you walk into the day as that person.
I love that, because you're setting yourself up to just win for that day. And
Exactly.
it's part of this whole thing that I've been talking to other guests about, is having small wins throughout the day to make you feel like you're progressing. And that's one of them. To start the day, I do a similar thing where I'm just writing down the goals first thing in the morning and last thing before bed, and just like visualizing it for a few minutes and then just falling asleep or starting my day that way, because it gets you in the right place. And I can't, now that I've done it for so long, and I don't know, you can tell me how you feel, but I don't remember the days without doing it. Like I can't imagine a day where I missed that, because then it's like I haven't started my day properly.
I know, 100%. I have like a whole ritual. I've got like a good 2 hours in the morning of things I do that have to be the same every morning. So no, ritual is so important, especially with visualizing. But then I think back, I've always visualized and I didn't realize that. Like when I was a kid, I probably visualized the exact life that I have now. And here I am.
Yeah, but we're not told what that is. That's why we never place any value on it, because we're not educated enough about what.
Well, and we're also told, be logical, like don't be so imaginative, like be logical. And I think logical is the worst thing that you could be.
Yeah, I think there's a place for it. It's you can't be it completely, and then at the same time you can't just be like in fairyland all the time. There's a fine line, but there's people who are on two extremes.
Oh,
and that's not, you can't live like that, you know. So
no.
But I do think there is power in allowing your creativity to just rise and to express yourself, because that's where like manifestation happens. You can't analyze it behind a computer in a spreadsheet.
No.
You have to be in the feeling of it.
Yeah, but you also have to do the work. And that's one thing, especially like the spiritual people don't realize, is like, I'm just going to visualize and meditate my way there. It's like, no, honey, you got to do some work. You got to like move the needle forward. And like, even if, so say someone wants to get 5 new clients this month, and they map out 20 ways that they're going to get these 5 clients, and they take all 20 actions. There could be a completely different way, but they're moving the energy forward. But then the clients come from a totally different way than those 20 ways, but they move the energy forward. So it's like that you can't control the how, you just can control your vibration that you're letting off. And it always comes if you're moving forward.
Most definitely. Yeah. So I think when you're thinking about the thing that you want, the action is what helps you drive to that end goal. But then the opportunities come as you move forward. Like those opportunities are further out.
Totally.
So that you have to walk down or run down that road.
Totally. So I wanted a TV show, and I was trying to, like, me and my friend were like, okay, how do you get a TV show? What do you do? And we're like mapping it out. We're like, okay, we're going to contact this person. We're going to do this. And then one day I was like, let's just let it happen. Let's just let it happen. And literally like 3 weeks later, a television producer phoned me and was like, hey, I heard you on a podcast. Like, let's make a show. And I was like, okay, there you go. Like, you know, you literally never know. But I tried and I put the energy forward, and then it landed.
But that's because you did something. Like that's the point I want people to know. That you put yourself. He had to see a podcast, so you did a podcast, right? So that's how he found you. So have you got any examples of how some of your clients have moved from darkness into light, and the sort of successes that they've seen, so that some people who are listening can relate to that?
Totally. I've got so many amazing clients. So one of my clients, her name's Kelly, and when she came to me, she was working in a restaurant. She did not know what she wanted to do. I can't remember where. I think she was living at home. Yeah, she was living at home with her parents. And she just kept saying, I just want to be free. Like, all I want to do, I just want freedom. And I just want to travel, and I just want to do this. And so I was like, okay, do those things. Like, what are the things you can do now? Like, how can you be that person now? You know, how can you be that rich person now? What makes you feel free every single day? Like, write down a list of 5 things every day that makes you feel free, even if you aren't free, and do those things. And she ended up launching a brand called the Freedom Babe. And she's, you know, scrounged up and went on these trips and like did what she could and took the action. And then, you know, slowly but surely, like things started landing for her, because she she revolved her life around freedom. She decided my destiny is freedom, and I'm going to wake up every day and do everything I can to feel free. And that's what happened for her. You know, she manifested it like crazy. And now she's, you know, making multiple six figures and traveling around the world. And she's got an amazing business, and she's getting, you know, she had like a list of all these like dream brands she wanted to work with, and they're all contacting her. And just because, and she just started, and she was able to quit her serving job. That's another thing we did. She wanted to quit her job so bad. And I was like, write your resignation letter, put the date on it that you want to quit. And so she did, and she had totally forgotten that she did that, and then went to go quit. And then she realized that day when she got home and had quit that she had already written the resignation letter for that day.
Wow, that's crazy.
Before. Yeah. So it's all about intention. You get to choose who you are when you wake up, and you get to create that destiny.
Yeah, I think it's just a mindset shift and seeing life from that perspective of being able to create it rather than being victim to whatever comes your way.
Totally.
And life becomes more fun when you're back in you come back into your imagination and into your own body, and you're like, you know what, I can do what I want. You can actually do what you want. And step by step, even like Kelly, like you said, like just start with a few things every day, write it out. And then, you know, step by step, you can make that list bigger, and you can change the actions that are on that list as well.
Totally. Exactly.
So I know you transitioned from jewelry to the business that you're doing now. Can you explain a little bit about what the jewelry business was, what you learned from it, and why you ended up moving into where you are now?
Yeah. So the jewelry business was, like I mentioned, it was crystals and gemstones to balance your chakras. And the whole concept was that it balances your it solves your modern girl problems. So there was like a hangover bracelet, there was a shopaholic bracelet, and just little modern girl problems, and the crystals that would help you heal them from a chakra perspective.
And how old were you when you were?
I was, good question, 28.
Right. So the reason I asked that is because I want people to know that, like, you can be 28 and still be lost, and it's fine.
Oh, totally. 100%.
Like, you're what, 31?
I'm 32.
32. Okay. Well, you look 31.
Thank you.
but yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, it takes just a few years just to get it together. Like,
totally.
You take action, eventually.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter whether it's 17 or 27. Like, when it comes, it comes. Like, that's what everyone places value on anyway.
And I tried to launch that business for 3 years. Like, I got the idea when I was 25, and like, that's when I was the girl who needed the bracelet. And then I just slowly did it. But then when I was 28, I was like, no, enough messing around. I ended up hiring a coach and getting a coach to help me, and I banged it out in 3 months. So launched the jewelry business, and people liked the jewelry. Obviously I sold some, but people cared so much more about how I unblocked my chakras to launch my business. So people were like, how did you do it? You know, I want to launch a business, or I want to create a brand, or I want to do this. What chakras do I need to unblock? How do I do it? These are the fears I have. What should I do? And people were emailing me and messaging me on Instagram like all the time. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm called to help people in a deeper way. Obviously the jewelry is cute, but it's only going to help you to an extent. Like, people need like deeper support. And what I realized too is when I was launching the business was that as I launched my jewelry business, I had to unblock each chakra in a deeper way. I always say, like, new levels, new devils. Even though I had cleared my chakras out a bunch, going on that journey of launching that business required me to unblock each chakra in sequence. So when I created the foundation of my business, I needed to tap into my root chakra. When I created my brand, I needed to tap into the creativity in my sacral chakra. So it's like the steps of launching were the same as the steps of the chakras. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. Like, this is really something. So I created a program called Chakra Girl Business School, and I helped people do both. I was like, we're going to unblock your root chakra for a week. Then we're going to take that energy and we're going to build the foundation of your business. And yeah, I basically launched that when I was 29. It was January of 3 years ago. And I in 3 years made $1 million in my business, which was crazy, just because it was aligned and it was what people needed and it was energetically aligned and I was doing the work and I was balancing my chakras. And it just took off. I mean, it's obviously there have been like struggles along the way, but it's always been a situation where I always have the next goal in sight and the next vision. I'm visualizing the next vision of the next thing that I want, and then energetically aligning to it. And there's cobwebs that come up along the way that need to clear out 100%, but that's the pattern. It's like there's always something. Have you read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks?
No.
It's amazing. So he talks about how success, it's not like a point A to B, but it's also doesn't have to be like a crazy, up and down. He said the best way to describe it is like an upward spiral. So it's like it goes up and then it dips down. But even when it dips down, it doesn't dip down as low as it was before. And then it goes up and it's even higher. And then it dips down, but not as low as it was before. It just keeps going up and up and up.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. And if anyone, whoever's listening, including myself, I'm going to definitely take a read of that. But I mean, as you said, every level is a new devil. So people that are like on social media and in the media now, and just the average person is looking at them, including yourself. Like there's people who don't have the same knowledge in the life that you have, and they just think, oh, they've got it all figured out, but they don't. Like every day you've got something, you've just got a different challenge. It's as simple as that. Like you still got something to face, but it's different.
Exactly. And you trust more. It's like you slowly earn your trust, the universe's trust in your energy. And it's like I feel like when we hit a roadblock, our first fear is, oh no, I'm going back to where I was. And then we make ourselves crash into like a lower, this like lower version of ourselves. But if we don't think that we're going to go back low again, and we're like, okay, this is just a small dip down and I'll bounce right back up, then we release that energy, and it's just a way quicker transition. So I think one thing that keeps people stuck is just that belief that, oh, I'm going backwards, but it's not backwards. It's just like a detour.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And in terms of like where you're heading next, like obviously you've got a visualization of where you want to go and what your higher self looks like away from what you are now. What does that look like?
So like I said, I'm working on a TV show, so I'm super excited about that. That was always my goal. I was like, I want to have a TV show. I want a reality show. I want to be famous, and I want to be the voice for millennial women that spirituality can be fun, approachable, and cool. So that's the vision. And, my husband and I are, already back and forth between Vancouver and LA. We're traveling a ton. Those are the important things to me, is like being connected, staying connected with the people I love, I'm taking my friends on a trip this summer. It's really, that's the vision, is just more, because obviously working on a business is hard, and there have been sacrifices that I've had to make along the way, and probably not seeing people as much as, everyone else does. But now that I have more space, I would say over the last year, I've really been focusing on, my new journey is, connection with people and doing that at the same time as the business. So for me, that vision is having the TV show and bringing everyone up with me.
So is the TV show going to be like, it's going to have a live audience?
No, it's going to be, we're still pitching, so not 100% set, but I'm saying it's like a combination between Cribs and Marie Kondo tidying up and Hollywood Medium. So we're going to go to the celebrities' houses. They're going to show us their practices. So we get like a deep dive look into, what these celebrities are doing to be successful. Then I'm going to give them my tips based on what they're trying to manifest. I'm going to give them new practices, and every show will have a theme, whether it's like crystals or meditation or yoga or whatever. And we're going to show everyone just all the all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say behind the scenes. That's refreshing. That's good because it's quite educational while being,
yes,
entertaining.
exactly. Yeah.
So, is there anything while we talked about morning routines? Like, is there? You said like yours takes a couple of hours, and obviously you don't have to go through everything in detail. But can you just give people a rough idea of what's like someone at your level, what they do every single day that helps you? Because maybe people can pick one or two things from that might help them.
Yes. So I wake up, I do a quick little Reiki on myself with some crystals. And that doesn't have to be, I mean, obviously if you're not Reiki certified, doesn't mean you can't, all it really is like feeling into every area of your body. So whether it's like, okay, I'm going to breathe into my feet, I'm going to breathe into my knees, I'm going to, just breathe into every area and kind of wake yourself up. And then I take my dog for a walk, which is about an hour situation, and just like getting outside, and I do my gratitude on my walk. So everything I see, I'm just like, oh my God, the sky is so blue. Like I just like go like a little bit over the top. And then I do a bath ritual when I get home. So the bath ritual is where it gets real, because I don't like, everyone's like, oh, wake up and do your gratitude. Yeah. But what if you're not feeling 100%? That's just a Band-Aid. So I do the gratitude, but then I also get real. So how am I actually feeling today? And when you start writing that out, you start to see your patterns. And like I said before, your awareness of your patterns is what allows you to stop them before they start. So I get real about how I'm feeling. And sometimes I do feel amazing and I'm bragging about it in my journal, but sometimes I'm like, ugh, I'm feeling this. I wonder where that's coming from. It kind of reminds me of this time where I felt this way. And I'm like, oh yeah, it might be from this thing that happened when I was 5. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just like connecting the dots. And then, in the bath, I'm like meditating, using crystals, journaling. I usually I'm reading a book by Erica Jane, which is one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills right now. And then and then I basically get up and get ready and start my day. So I'm like journaling, meditating, getting real with myself, gratitude, getting outside and feeling into my body. Those are the important parts. And then obviously like hydrating, probiotics, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like that's a whole different separate conversation. But I mean, what you touched on there is like it's a holistic approach to having to feeling good, and like because the thing is, it's not just like the business plan, or it's not just chakras on its own. It's not just like putting yourself, it's setting up a social media account, like it does, or networking. It's everything. It's all of that. Like that's what people need to get. It's you have to have all of them aligned. Because the food that you eat changes the energy. And then if your energy is not aligned, you can't take the action. And then you feel like, oh, it's the action, but it's the food.
Exactly. And 100%. And also, the more you take on, the more rest and practice that you need. So it's like, definitely. I didn't used to need a 2-hour daily practice. I could meditate for 10 minutes. I could go sit at my computer. I could get a bunch of clients. Things were great. But then when I wanted to scale bigger, when I wanted to also have a podcast, when I wanted to also have a TV show, when I wanted to also have all these other things, when I wanted to hire a CEO, that required me to rest more, to recharge more, to be more connected. So, when you see an Olympic athlete, he works out and exercises and hydrates and does way more ritual than a normal person because he has to recharge more because he's putting out more. So I want to be able to give as much as I can. And to do that, I have to give myself as much as I can.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation on Saturday with one of my friends, and he was talking about how his wife is a doctor and that she's always giving, and eventually she'll come to the point where she's burnt out, and he can see it. And I said, look, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
And I felt that all of last year, where I was just like grinding on the business, like trying to launch this podcast and be doing it for about a year, just over a year now. But like working long hours in the city, doing a sales job, then coming home and recording at 10 p.m. And then just like I wasn't sleeping, wasn't exercising, just go, giving my energy out to everyone, trying to provide value. And then you just crash. And as you said, the more you put out, the more you have to recharge. And the analogy I gave to him, which I'll quickly share with people listening, is if you've got a cup of water and you're giving it out to everyone to drink, that being the help that you're giving, when it comes, the cup comes back to you, it's empty. So when you're thirsty, what are you going to drink from? You have to keep the cup for yourself, refill it, and then take a sip and then give it around. So
And I think that the most profound thing I learned this year, even though it doesn't sound that profound, is when you want to change your life, it's not about adding things in, it's about taking things out. So I wouldn't be able to have this 2-hour daily practice if I didn't set boundaries in my business. So I told you I don't start my day before 11. So it's like there are things that I had to cut out to make room to create the energy to create all the things I want to create. So removing, and it's not just, physical or tangible things. It's like, what are the beliefs I need to release? What are the thoughts I need to release? What are the bad habits? What are the bad foods? What are the, whatever. Releasing that is what gives you the energy, because some people are like, there's no way I have 2 hours in the morning. There's no way I have the energy to do that. There's no way I have the time to do that. But everyone has the time and energy. We just need to conserve it and make sure that all of our time and energy is being used in the right way. And
you don't need to spend 2 hours doing it. Like for someone who doesn't have 2 hours, you start with 5 minutes, because what was the thing that there was a quote that I heard was, what you appreciate appreciates. So what you focus on will expand further. So
totally
giving yourself 5 minutes, you'll start to live a life where you can have 10, 15, 20, and then eventually 2 hours like you.
Exactly.
So, I mean, just to wrap this up with the final few questions, I think there's, many other topics we can get into, but maybe we should do that for a part 2. But I mean, what if you had a microphone and the whole world could hear you? What's the one message you want to share with them?
So many. Oh my gosh. I think it's just that you're where you're supposed to be right now, and don't, am I allowed to swear? I wanted to ask that.
Yeah, go on. Okay. Oh, I should have said, I always tell people at the start, and then I forget to say it, but yeah, I want people to be themselves.
Yeah. So don't shit talk yourself. Don't talk to yourself negatively in your head, because that's what drains your energy. The number one energy drain are the thoughts you have about yourself. So if you're constantly telling yourself, every time you look in the mirror saying something negative, every time you open your computer saying something negative, that is going to suck the energy out of you, and you're not going to have anything left. And that's what creates overwhelm. Like when I have clients that are like, oh, I'm just so overwhelmed, I have so many things to do. But it's like, you can do it. Like, what's going on in your head that is sucking all your energy out? Because you do have the time and energy and space to do all that stuff. So what are you saying to yourself? Because that's the biggest energy suck.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think I personally went through that as well. And I'm sure you have in your own way.
Yeah.
Like just
totally
holding yourself back, like being your own enemy, basically.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's I think it's an ongoing battle for me. Like I still have to keep myself in check with that. But that's, such an important thing. I know that was the first thing that I had to learn when I started this journey, was to be mindful of my thoughts about myself. And it's something I continue to work on all the time.
No, I love that. So the second question is, what's the biggest lie that we've been told right now?
Oh, the biggest lie. I think time is a lie. I really do. Like, time is not real. Like, have you heard of this whole thing?
I think we need to take a separate podcast to talk about this. Yeah, I've definitely heard it. And don't open that door, because I can talk for 6 hours now.
Okay. That's the lie.
Yeah, no, definitely. But we won't get into that now.
No, okay.
but yeah, so, the final question, you got me thinking now. I want to say a lot of stuff, but anyway, the final question is, what's the legacy you want to leave behind?
I just want people to know that they can literally create anything. Like, there are no limitations. You don't have to be special or be more educated or more rich or more connected than the next person. Everything that you want is already in you. You just have to unclog the stuff that's fogging it up.
I love that. And that's exactly the line of work that you're in, to help
exactly
live that sort of life. So if people want to find out more about your work, where can they do that?
So the podcast is a good place to visit. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. It's called Chakra Girl Radio. Instagram is, you can DM me anytime. I'm always answering DMs. And my Instagram handle is Chakra Girl Co. And the website is chakragirlco.com.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share. And we definitely need to do a part 2 because there was a lot of topics in there.
So many things. Thank you.